Here's something most riders won't admit about the 2026 Honda Goldwing. It's not really about touring anymore. Yeah, I said it. When I look at the Honda Goldwing, especially heading into 2026, I don't just see a long-distance machine. I see a luxury statement on two wheels, and that changes how I judge it. I compared it in my head to big touring rigs from a decade ago. Back then, comfort was the headline. Big seat, big windshield, big trunk. Done. But now, the Goldwing feels closer to a high-end car experience than a traditional motorcycle, and that shift matters. Most people still think the Goldwing is just for retirees crossing state lines. That's the misconception. What surprised me was how many younger riders are quietly looking at it, not because it's practical, but because it feels premium in a way most bikes don't. Here's the thing. The flat-six engine isn't just about power. It's about smoothness. I've ridden bikes with more horsepower on paper, but very few feel this composed. There's something about that horizontally opposed six-cylinder that makes highway speeds feel effortless. You're not wringing it out, you're barely touching it. And most people miss this. Effortlessness is a luxury. When I compare it to something like the BMW K1600 GTL, the BMW feels sharper, maybe even sportier, but the Goldwing feels calmer, less dramatic, almost confident. That confidence is hard to explain until you experience it. Another mistake riders make is assuming the Goldwing is too heavy to be enjoyable. On paper, yes, it's big, no way around that. But Honda has spent years refining balance and low-speed handling. What surprised me when I first experienced one was how manageable it felt once moving. The weight disappears faster than you expect. And here's a practical takeaway. If you judge this bike from a parking lot test alone, you're missing the point. The Goldwing makes sense at 50 miles per hour and above. It's built for motion, not showroom impressions. Now let's talk about tech. Some people complain that motorcycles are becoming too digital. Big screens, ride modes, electronic suspension. I had that same doubt. Do we really need all this? But on a machine like this, it makes sense. When you're riding 300 miles in a day, small adjustments matter. Suspension that adapts, smooth throttle mapping, seamless audio integration. It's less about gadgets and more about reducing fatigue. That's the word nobody talks about enough. Fatigue. Long-distance comfort isn't just about seat padding. It's wind protection, vibration control, engine character, ergonomics. The 2026 version continues refining those small details, and those small details add up in a big way. I also noticed something interesting about how people react to the Goldwing. They either over-respect it or completely ignore it. Some treat it like the king of touring. Others dismiss it as an old man's bike. But I think both sides miss the point. The Goldwing doesn't try to be trendy. It doesn't chase aggressive styling or naked bike minimalism. It knows exactly what it is, and that clarity is rare. If you compare it to big American tours like the Harley-Davidson Road Glide, the Harley leans heavily into character and heritage. The Goldwing leans into refinement and precision. Two different philosophies. Neither is wrong, but if you value smooth engineering over loud personality, the Honda hits differently. Here's another practical insight. The 2026 Honda Goldwing isn't for someone upgrading every 2 years. It's for someone who wants to settle in, keep it, travel with it, build miles and memories without constantly thinking about the next upgrade. That's a different mindset. I also think people underestimate how usable it can be beyond cross-country trips. Weekend rides with a passenger? Incredible. Daily commuting? Maybe not ideal in tight cities, but surprisingly doable if you're comfortable with the size. And that brings me to the real question. Does the 2026 Honda Goldwing still make sense in a market obsessed with adventure bikes? I think it does, but only if you're honest about what kind of rider you are. Adventure bikes promise versatility. The Goldwing promises mastery of one thing, paved road luxury. It doesn't pretend to go off-road. It doesn't pretend to be lightweight. It perfects its lane. In a world where every bike tries to be everything, that focus feels refreshing. So when I think about the 2026 Honda Goldwing, I don't see a dinosaur. I see a machine that quietly refined itself while the rest of the industry chased trends. And personally, I respect that more.